Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Right, so finally I did have to renew my sigil, and that in this case was a good thing because for once I was waiting impatiently to be able to do so. The reason for that is because I wanted to get that 4-star Scarlet Witch and test her out. So I did get her yesterday, and with that I did end up taking her to rank 5. And I did some testing, and I must say I do really like her. Don't think she's gonna dethrone Doom or anything like that, but she's definitely, in my opinion, gonna be somewhere in the top 10 Mystic champions. She has inherent weaknesses, but I do think that interaction with Mystic Dispersion is going to be absolutely insane. And here comes the first disclaimer of the video. I am playing her with my current mastery setup, which includes Liquid Courage, Double Edge, and Recoil, which does enhance her numbers quite significantly and is also not really a sustainable way to play her. However, at the same time, I think once I will change my mastery setup with the start of Alliance War season, I will definitely redo pretty much everything I have done with her and try her out then, because I do suspect that she has insane interaction with Mystic Dispersion, which will enable her to just spam special attacks like no day's end. Right, so let's get to the actual gameplay. So I have synergized her up, well, fairly well. She has several benefits, one of them starting with 2 instability, which saves me having to throw 1 level 1 at start of the fight. And the most important thing playing Sigil, which is being careful if you make opponents unblockable. That's the key point to watch out for. We can see the opponent's unblockable. You can parry him if that is the latest buff that he has received, and or if that is the only buff, because on parry you have a guaranteed nullify, which is one of my favorite abilities on any champion introduced ever. I do think it's absolutely busted ability. Now, I actually here made a mistake. I shouldn't have really went for this level 1 here. I should have just went straight up to level 2, but it's fine. Because you want to float ideally around 4 to 5 instability. Because if you have 6 of them active, then you're gonna put a degen on opponent, but then you're gonna end up losing all of them. So you're much better off just sticking to 4 to 5 instabilities. But at the same time, let's keep in mind, this is a 4-star champion against Realm of Legends Winter Soldier. So a 4-star champion against Realm of Legends Winter Soldier. We see a nice 17k crit. We see a ton of damage over time effects. Even without Mystic Dispersion, I'm gaining power like crazy thanks to her heavy attacks. And the dude is getting whacked. The dude is getting whacked really well. The entire game plan basically involves me dropping level 2s, then parrying to nullify any buffs Winter Soldier might have gotten. Meanwhile, dropping a heavy attack to get to 100% bar of power thanks to the, well, mechanic that she has on the heavy attack. Exchange 1 instability for a 10-second power gain buff that gives you a bar of power, and at this point 2 20k crits and a 30k crit. So this was a 4-star that did like 80k damage plus placed damage over time effects on Winter Soldier. So this is a 4-star that finished this fight out in 81 hits. 81 hits for a 4-star champion is pretty darn well, if you ask me. Now, I did bring her around in a few other spots around Act 5, so on and so forth. But once again, these numbers are slightly exaggerated because I am running Liquid Courage Double Edge, and she definitely isn't suitable with this mastery setup. But at the same point, you can technically boost and gain a very similar result. That being said, she does have weaknesses. She's by no means a perfect champion, but I also must say that I did enjoy using her a lot. There was that slight aspect of unpredictability that always keeps you on your toes because you want to watch out for what buffs your opponent gets. And the thing that I did enjoy a lot here was also that you kind of adjust your playstyle based on the new information that arises, basically which buffs which champion is getting, so on and so forth. And ultimately, due to the frequent inputs of the RNG, you kind of always end up more or less at the same result, or similar result, anyhow. And I like that. I think this portrayal of Scarlet Witch is very accurate to what I would expect Scarlet Witch to be in the game. And I, for one, can't wait to get my hands on a 6-star and a 5-star. I am actually currently thinking that I'll buy the 5-star one first and maybe max out my 5-star. Because if I'm gonna get her as a 6-star, I would want to have her duped before I invest in her heavily anyways. And yeah, well, I'll figure that out later on. But I am definitely excited to be able to have this champion like fully properly in my roster, because let's face it, at this point 4-star champions are not much more than an action figure, something to have a little bit of fun with, something to test about and stuff like that. But 4-star champions are not relevant in, well, any meaningful piece of content really. At the same time, it does give us a chance to experience how it would be and just let us imagine what kind of crazy numbers and uses we could find for her in like the most current content everywhere about. So I'm gonna drop that fight. That fight is pretty much over. This is gonna be a few fights from, I believe, uncollected difficulty final quest. I think this is uncollected, but it's also gonna be quite interesting. I did enjoy a few fights here. So let's see how Scarlet Witch gets on. Against champions that have a lot of buffs, it's actually a bit trickier to play Scarlet Witch, because if, in case they do go unblockable, it's going to be harder to be able to parry and nullify that unblockable. At the same time, the one type of opponents that you really can't use Scarlet Witch against is definitely champions whose level 1s or level 2s, well, especially level 1s, you're unable to dex fully. Because that is the kind of biggest threat you might face, which is interesting because Scarlet Witch creates that threat herself. If opponent goes unblockable just before or as you are baiting out a level 1 and you're unable to dex it, you're kind of going to be screwed. So she's also like a very exhilarating or a dangerous champion. But looking at the numbers, I generally do think that risk might end up being worth it. I personally still have quite high hopes for the champion. And here you can see like a typical fight, let's say with class disadvantage. Opponent doesn't have any buffs, but I do have the Scarlet Witch synergy. So I start off with a heavy attack that lets me get a power gain buff. Then I drop a level 1. And that level 1 puts me at 3 instability, which is pretty much good enough to kind of like start pushing to my level 2s. And then I'm gonna get to level 2. Keep in mind that if I had Mystic Dispersion active, I would have reached my level 2 ages ago. And here at this point, yes, I'm just gonna drop a level 2, nullify that prowess buff, do make a slight mistake there, but it's all good. The fight's nearly over anyhow. Right, and I think there's another one fight against Ghost. All in all, I'm definitely quite impressed with her, with the numbers she can put up. As we saw earlier in that Winter Soldier fight, there is like a relatively nonchalant 80k level 2, plus all of those damage over time effects would probably extend that damage closer to like 100k or 90k. And for a 4-star champion, that is very, very impressive. There are 6-stars in the game who can only wish to have that damage output. And again, I do see a ton of utility on her nullify ability, on her heavy attack. So yeah, I am very excited, and to be honest, I'm extremely impatient at this point to try and acquire this champion at a higher rarity, higher star level. And if I had her right now as a 5 or 6-star, I'd definitely be wanting to take her all the way up to whatever is the highest rank that I can get her immediately, because she's extremely enjoyable. Next up, I'm gonna show a couple of fights from variants. So this is variant 5, I believe, the symbiote and mystic variant. It's also gonna be quite interesting. So keep in mind, this is variant difficulty with that arcane torrent node boosting mystic champions for every buff that opponents have. And since she does give more buffs to opponents, she is going to be able to benefit from it. But these guys are quite jacked. These guys are no joke. They hit hard, and they have plenty of health. And we can see that my standard start of the fight parry heavy, get a power gain buff, drop a level 1. At this point I am unblockable, push to level 2 and just drop my level 2. Opponent has like 5 buffs at this point, and with that we could see that that level 2 definitely had plenty of sting to it. Fortunately there at some point I think I lost the instabilities. I don't know what happened to my instabilities. There was a ton of things going on and I did not notice what happened, to be honest. But the fight's over. The fight's over. It is definitely fairly chaotic at times if you lose track a bit. So let's go and take a look at the fight against this Cyclops. And here, obviously, I only have Scarlet Witch synergy because all the rest of them couldn't come in due to the variant restrictions. So once again, I'm just gonna push to my level 1. I'm gonna drop that level 1. Wonderful. Now I just need to dex this and nullify a buff, ideally from that guy. I can drop a heavy attack to get that power gain, to get to my level 2 quicker. That power gain is in fact extremely potent. And now I'm gonna go for a nice level 2. Wait, what am I gonna do next? Probably push for another level 2. Why not, since we're already more than halfway there. So let's go level 2 and let's see what numbers. This is gonna be another 14k crit. And we have a ton of incinerates, ton of cold snaps, ton of poisons on Cyclops, and he goes down. So that has been a small showcase of Scarlet Witch, but once again, that was not the proper mastery setup, and I definitely will revisit her again when I do have maxed out Mystic Dispersion, because I imagine that to be absolutely bonkers. And once again, I think the highlights of the champion definitely are this unique nullify ability, which will, in my opinion, be almost enough on its own to make sure she has some niche uses, if you will. And that heavy attack power gain is extremely potent and extremely powerful, especially because you can extend the duration of her buffs. And in general, just imagine one heavy attack effectively gives you already about a quarter of a bar of power in itself, and then it also gives you a full bar of power with that buff. So you can build up a lot of power very quickly. But yeah, that will do for today's video though. Well, I guess almost. I want to go back to the Winter Soldier fight, and I want to check out that sexy level 2. Not this fight, I think this fight. Why is it not showing though? Something's up. Well, I guess here we go. I guess something went wrong. Either way, that will do for today's video. And well, I hope you guys did enjoy it, and if you did, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the good buttons, and I will catch you guys soon. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about